Hello everyone, welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shiva.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar, and on the show today, Hezbollah rockets struck Israel on the first anniversary of the Gaza War. And this is while Israel looked poised to expand ground incursions into Lebanon. We'll get you all the ground updates from there.
Also on the show, we bring you the latest on the Russia-Ukraine war, where Russia has unleashed an overnight drone attack across Ukraine, targeting the capital, Kiev, and hitting infrastructure in the Black Sea port of Odessa. Russian forces have also claimed to have captured another village in the Donetsk region. We will be bringing you the latest on that front. Let's start with the headlines. This is World DNA.
Hezbollah claims to fire a fresh salvo of rockets at Israeli military base near Tel Aviv, says the target was the Gilot base of Military Intelligence Unit 8200.
United States warns Israel not to attack Beirut airport or the roads leading to it, as Lebanese state media says 2 new strikes hit Beirut's southern suburbs.
Democratic White House hopeful Kamala Harris said in an interview broadcast on Monday that if elected president, she will not meet Vladimir Putin for peace talks if Ukraine was not also represented.
United States urges Bangladesh's interim government to protect rights of minority communities as Hindus celebrate their largest festival of Durga Puja in the country.
Hurricane Milton gains strength to become Category 5 storm bound for U.S. state of Florida, second major hurricane to hit state in as many weeks.
A U.S. judge orders Google to open its Android smartphone operating system to rival app stores. Order comes after Google's defeat in an antitrust case brought by Fortnite maker Epic Games.
France captain Kylian Mbappe is under fire for skipping national duty. The forward picked up a muscle injury in September but played for Real Madrid last Wednesday. And our top story on World DNA, 2 new strikes hit Beirut's southern suburbs late on Monday after the Israeli military issued a warning to the residents.
Lebanese state media reported that the area was the target of 2 Israeli raids.
I like the angle pause.
Smoke could be seen rising from the suburbs. Several strikes hit the Lebanese capital's southern suburbs early in the evening.
In southern Lebanon, the Israeli military said it struck more than 120 Hezbollah targets within a 60-minute period as part of extensive strikes, adding that the targets belong to the group's elite Radwan forces and other units.
Israeli strikes also hit coastal villages after the IDF said it will expand its operations against Hezbollah to Lebanon's coast south of the Al Awali River. Following the warning, fishermen in the city of Seda rushed to move their boats north of the river.
The U.S. State Department said Israel's ground operations in Lebanon so far continue to be limited, and Washington expects Israel to target Hezbollah in compliance with international humanitarian law.
Supportive of them targeting Hezbollah, but of course we expect them to target Hezbollah in a way that complies with international humanitarian law and that minimizes civilian casualties.
Meanwhile, militant group Hezbollah said it targeted an Israeli military intelligence base near Tel Aviv on Monday. The Iran-backed group said it fired a salvo of rockets at the Gililot base of military intelligence unit 8200 on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. The Israeli military said sirens were sounded in central Israel after projectile launches were found crossing from Lebanon into Israeli territory. Several projectiles were intercepted above the city, while the military said other projectiles fell in open areas.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he will not give up and continue to fight as long as the Israeli citizens do not return to their homes safely.
The campaign must not be stopped prematurely. As long as the enemy threatens our existence and the peace of our country, we will continue to fight. As long as our hostages are in Gaza, we will continue to fight. We will not give up any of them. I will not give up. As long as our citizens do not return to their homes safely, we will continue to fight.
In Gaza, Israeli armed forces struck with airstrikes and artillery on Monday. In addition to strikes, military activity and fighting on the ground could be seen in the devastated Palestinian enclave.
In Yemen, Houthis say they fired 2 missiles at military targets in central Israel's Jaffa area on Monday. Houthis military spokesperson Yahya Saraya called it fifth phase of escalation. The announcement was made shortly after Israel said it intercepted a missile fired at central Israel from Yemen.
The first operation targeted 2 military targets of the Israeli enemy in the occupied Jaffa area using 2 missiles. The first was a Palestine II type missile which successfully reached its target, and the second was a Dhu al-Fikr missile. The operation achieved its objectives successfully.
Israeli ambassador to the United Nations said the Israeli Defense Forces intercepted a ballistic missile launched from Yemen.
He said Israel continues to fight on multiple fronts and promised Iran that there will be a response to its missile attack on the country.
We continue to fight in multiple fronts. We are deploying all necessary capabilities against our enemies, both in defense and offense. And I can tell Iran and their proxies, they should know, we will decide when and where, but there will be a response. There will be a response. We will ensure that all those who seek to destroy us will pay the price for their actions.
Iran said on Monday that it will respond firmly to any Israeli attack on its soil, stressing that it did not want a wider war in the region. Iranian Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi said the Islamic Republic is not afraid of war and will give a firm and appropriate response to any new action by Israel. People around the world marked the first anniversary of the Hamas October 7th attack that sparked a year of devastating war in Gaza.
In Israel, ceremonies and protests began about 6:29 a.m. local time, the hour when the Palestinian militant group launched rockets on the Jewish country last year.
Well, at the site of the Nova Music Festival, where hundreds of partygoers and staff were killed and scores of others were taken hostage, mourners gathered in large numbers and listened to the last track that was played during the music festival before the attacks began. They were joined by President Isaac Herzog.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu lit a candle at Jerusalem's Swords of Iron Memorial. He said, "We remember our fallen, our hostages, that we are obliged to return."
In Tel Aviv, people observed a moment of silence during a memorial ceremony where musicians performed as victims' images flashed on the screen. No formal event was observed in Gaza.
Now, coming to the U.S., a solemn Jewish ceremony of mourning took place at the White House. Biden lit a candle while a rabbi chanted a prayer for the victims.
Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Harris separately planted a memorial tree at her Washington residence, while Republican former President Trump met Jewish leaders at a sacred grave site in New York.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
And as you see on your screen, at Columbia University in New York, the starting point for last year's national student-led protest, pro-Palestinian students chanted Free Palestine and waved Palestinian flags on the main plaza of the campus. A separate group of pro-Israel protesters gathered outside the campus, which was closed to visitors for security, holding Israeli flags and posters of the Hamas-led hostages.
Similar protests were held in Canada, UK and Germany. In France, the lights on the Eiffel Tower were turned off at 11:45 p.m. local time to honor the victims of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel.
Meanwhile, protests turned violent in Tunisia and Istanbul. Hundreds of protesters clashed with security forces during protests supporting Palestinians as they marked the one-year anniversary of the Gaza War. And the Gaza Strip, once a bustling, vibrant community along the Mediterranean coast, now lies in devastation as it marks a grim milestone 1 year since the Israel-Hamas war began.
Here's an up-close of the situation on the ground as of now, 1 year since that deadly attack. Take a look.
Gaza Strip, already strained by nearly 2 decades of an Israeli blockade, is now a landscape of devastation. A year of relentless bombardment has erased entire neighborhoods, uprooted families, and left essential infrastructure in tatters. The human toll is staggering. Hamas-controlled health authorities say 42,000 Palestinians have died. Countless missing and millions displaced. Gaza, once a bustling enclave, now bears the scars of war, while those who remain face a bleak and uncertain future.
We are displaced from school to school, from Gaza to Yarmouk, then back to the north, and then we flee again. We got displaced 5 or 6 times since the start of the war. We have been on this for a year. I swear we are exhausted.
Areas surrounding the Shifa hospital, Gaza's largest medical center, are flattened, leaving vital healthcare services crippled. High-rise buildings that once overlooked the sea are now piles of rubble, and the coastal highway is littered with remnants of destroyed buildings. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are forced to survive without electricity, clean water, or sanitation. Hunger and disease are spreading unchecked, while children and the elderly struggle to survive in the harsh conditions. With 40 million tons of debris to clear and an estimated $650 million required just to begin the cleanup, rebuilding seems an insurmountable challenge.
Before October 7, one had dreams, Me as a father, I have 6 children. My biggest burden was that I provide them with homes. I find them wives. But after October 7th, this came to nothing. After 58 years of work for me, same as my father, all of it was gone to dust and rocks.
As the violence continues to escalate, involving Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, and potentially Iran, fears are growing that the war could soon engulf the entire West Asia. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Ukraine has claimed that a Russian missile struck a civilian ship in Odessa.
Exactly, and this is resulting in 1 fatality and leaving Israel in several injured. Now, Ukraine officials have confirmed about the attack, saying that the Russians hit a civilian ship with a ballistic missile. The officials also mentioned that 5 foreign nationals were injured in the attack, making it the second attack on civilian vessels.
Meanwhile, the Russian shelling in the eastern city of Sloviansk has killed 1 person and injured 6 others, including 2 children. Governor of the Donetsk region, Vadim Flashkin, said that the shelling damaged 6 multi-story apartment buildings, an administrative building and a business site.
The Russian forces claim to have captured another village in the Donetsk region, an area critical to logistics near Pokrovsk. This comes amidst a series of daily attacks with reports of civilians being killed in Sumy and Kherson regions.
The Ukrainian president addressed the ongoing challenges in the Donetsk region in his nightly video message and emphasized the urgency of reinforcing Ukraine's military capabilities.
Now, he highlighted the upcoming Ramstein meeting in Germany, where leaders from over 50 nations are expected to discuss military aid to Ukraine, including the permission to use long-range missiles.
The Donetsk directions remain particularly challenging, and we will try to convince our partners at the upcoming Ramstein meeting of the urgent need for the significant reinforcement of our capabilities and positions right now during these autumn months.
Meanwhile, Kiev also ramped up its offensive against Moscow, targeting a key energy infrastructure. Ukraine military reported a successful strike on an oil terminal in Crimea, aimed at disrupting Moscow's war funding. Russia is continuing its march on the eastern Ukrainian battlefield. Russian missiles and drones are continuously targeting Ukraine.
Now, this while Ukrainian troops are outgunned and outnumbered, they are deploying small modified drones to deadly effect. Our next story explains the strategy.
Russian attacks intensify with missiles raining down on Ukraine's eastern front, targeting key cities like Kyiv and Odessa. Russian artillery is raining fire on the front lines. Russia claims its troops have taken control of a settlement in the Donetsk region. Ukraine has been pleading with its Western allies to allow it to shoot long-range weapons at Russian targets. Fearing escalation, the West is unwilling to give the nod. Ukrainian forces, however, are pushing back, deploying their new incendiary drones to devastating effect. These Dragon drones, known for their ability to rain fire from above, strike with thermite, a compound that burns at an astonishing 2000 degrees Celsius, easily melting through tank armor and other metal targets. Footage from the Ukraine Defense Ministry shows one of these drones hovering over a Russian tank before dropping its fiery payload, reducing the armored vehicle to a smoldering ruin. The Ukrainian military reportedly started using these thermite-equipped drones in September, with videos emerging that showcase their destructive capabilities. Russia too has been using new weaponry to deadly effect. These images released by the Russian Defense Ministry show a heavy flamethrower system firing on enemy positions. This is a multiple-barreled flamethrower capable of firing a stream of flammable liquid up to 300 meters. As both sides experiment with this new breed of weaponry, the intensity of warfare escalates, sparking fears that the conflict will become even more ferocious. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, moving on. Several members of the Chagosian communities held protests in the UK after the government announced the handover of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius.
The UK will keep one of the islands, Diego Garcia, for now, as it hosts a joint military base with the US. Now, Chagosians displaced from the island about 50 years ago to make way for the military base held demonstrations outside the parliament. They alleged that the decision was taken without consulting them.
They announced a deal without even consulting us, which is at the center of all this tragedy, you know. Our people who suffered for the last 60 years, it was not the British or the Mauritian. But today, they have a deal which is suitable for them, best for them, of course. And what about the people? What about the people that they ignored 65 years ago? Like myself, I felt like today is like history repeating itself.
Last week, the Keir Starmer government said that Diego Garcia will serve as a naval and bomber base for the United States under an agreement. As per the terms of the agreement, UK will hand over the rest of Chagos Islands to Mauritius. The UK will pay Mauritius an undisclosed sum as rent while retaining Diego Garcia for a period of 99 years.
US President Joe Biden has hailed the deal, calling it an effective operation of the joint facility into the next century. Meanwhile, the opposition Conservative Party slammed the decision, saying that the decision will serve as a bad precedent for some of the other British Isles claimed by Spain and Argentina. UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy argued that the decision will not affect other overseas British territories.
Reports suggest that in the last 60 years, nearly 2,000 people have been evicted from the islands for building the Diego Garcia base. The base in Indian Ocean helps the U.S. to conduct military operations in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan.
A mayor in Mexico has been brutally murdered barely days after he took office.
Alejandro Arcos was killed in the state of Guerrero after he took charge as the mayor of Chilpancingo last week. While reports suggest that Arcos was decapitated, an official confirmation is still pending. The state governor has expressed outrage over the gruesome murder that once again highlighted the country's battle against cartel-related violence and crime. The Institutional Revolutionary Party condemned the killing as a cowardly crime.
Arcos' murder comes just days after another city official, Francisco Tapia, was also killed. Both young officials had been in office for less than a week. Guerrero is particularly plagued by cartel violence. 1,890 murders were recorded just last year, and mostly due to rival drug cartels fighting for control. Over 450,000 people have been killed across Mexico, with tens of thousands still missing since 2006, when the government deployed the army to fight drug trafficking. Local politicians have often been targeted in the violence linked to corruption and the multi-billion-dollar drug trade.
And it's time for a quick break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side of World Dini, the results for the assembly elections in India's Haryana and Jammu and Kashmir will be declared today. While elections were held in 3 phases in Jammu and Kashmir, Haryana went to polls in a single phase on October 5th. We'll get you all the latest from there.
Also, on the other side, report on the United States, which said it wants to see the rights of the minority communities protected in Bangladesh. The statement comes as Hindus in the country are celebrating their largest festival of Durga Puja. Stay tuned for that. Come right back. This is World DNA.
Mozambique holds a general election on the 9th of October, but voters fear they will be deprived of a fair and democratic electoral process. The Southern African nation and is one of the poorest countries in the world, despite its vast natural gas deposits. Kenya's Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua apologizes to his boss, President William Ruto, and citizens after lawmakers launched an impeachment proceeding.
If you insubordinate the state, you are not worth being a state officer.
And Ethiopia's capital hosted thousands at the Irecha Heritage Festival on one end of Addis Ababa, and on the other, thousands celebrated an annual religious festival marked by the lighting of bonfires, according to the beliefs of the local Orthodox Christian faithful. That's this week on World of Africa, at these times on WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
WION brings you a special business talk show where we bring forth the stories of business leaders.
From breakthrough technologies to visionary leadership, we will unlock the trends, the tactics, and dive into the minds of the industry's most influential leaders.
WION brings you this special series to uncover what drives them in a candid talk show, WION Business Masters.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One, and this is World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar, and my colleague Shivan Chanana. Let's start with the headlines first.
Results of the assembly elections in India's Haryana and Jammu and Kashmir to be declared today. Counting of votes begins amid tight security.
United States urges Bangladesh interim government to protect rights of minority communities as Hindus celebrate their largest festival of Durga Puja in the country.
Hezbollah claims to fire fresh salvo of rockets at Israeli military base near Tel Aviv, says the target was the Gililot base of Military Intelligence Unit 8200.
Democratic White House hopeful Kamala Harris says if elected president, she will not meet Russian President Vladimir Putin for peace talks if Ukraine was not also represented.
Hurricane Milton gains strength to become Category 5 storm bound for U.S. state of Florida, second major hurricane to hit state in as many weeks.
France captain Kylian Mbappe is under fire for skipping national duty. The forward picked up a muscle injury in September but played for Real Madrid last Wednesday.
The results for the assembly elections in India's Haryana and Jammu and Kashmir will be declared today. While elections were held in 3 phases in Jammu and Kashmir, Haryana went to polls in a single phase.
Absolutely. In Haryana, 93 counting centers have been set up across 90 assembly constituencies in 22 districts. Postal ballots will be counted first, followed by the counting of electronic voting machines. More than 1,000 candidates, including 464 independents and 101 women, are in the fray.
This was the first assembly election in Jammu and Kashmir in 10 years. It is also the first since the abrogation of Article 370 back in 2019, which changed its status to a union territory. Now, the key poll issues in the election were Article 370, restoration of full statehood, and unemployment.
According to Election Commission officials, a 3-tier security setup has been put in all place at all the counting centers to ensure that all goes well in the restive union territory. The fate of 873 candidates vying for a seat in the 90-member House is expected to be revealed by Tuesday evening.
All right, for more on this, our special correspondent Idris Loan joins us from Srinagar. Idris, of course, all through the 3 phases, we were getting a sense of what is happening. The exit polls have also been out. They're suggesting something, but we've seen exit polls go terribly wrong in the recent past. Give us a sense of what to expect. Polling, or counting rather, now is going to start soon.
Well, Shivan, just at 8 o'clock, the counting has started at the Srinagar Counting Centre, which is at the SKICC, where I am standing right now. And as you can see, the whole place is completely covered by the security forces, which includes Jammu and Kashmir Police as well as CRPF. There's a 100-meter limit that has been kept by the authorities today around the counting centres, where no civilian is allowed. Only people with the passes are allowed to enter into these centres. If we talk about the exit polls that have come in the last 1 week after the election concluded, most of the exit polls have shown that the National Conference and Congress are winning a majority of seats in the Kashmir division, while as if we talk about the Jammu division, it seems that BJP will have an edge like they had in the parliamentary elections. But as you said, that the exit polls have gone wrong in the past also, and this time also they might not really be exactly what it is being shown. Because for the first time ever, Shivan, we also saw a huge participation of the people in the assembly elections. All the previous records of the people participation in these elections were broken, and that is one of the reasons that it might be a surprise for all of us at the end of the day that who are the winners in this election. If we talk about the main faces that this election has, like the former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Umar Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti's daughter, Iltija Mufti, is also fighting for the first time. It's a debut in the assembly elections. And there are BJP leaders like Ravindra Raina, Congress's state president Tariq Hamid Karra, Muzaffar Hussain Beg, who was the Deputy Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. He's fighting as an independent. So this time it's a big bouquet of leaders that are in the fray. One of the biggest competitors this time was the Awami Ittihad Party's leader, Engineer Rashid, who was in jail for the last 5.5 years, but was left to campaign for his political leaders in the assembly elections. He aggressively campaigned for his candidates, but the exit polls have shown that he might not get more than 1 or 2 seats. But he's confident that his vote share has increased, definitely in north as well as in the south of Kashmir. So it's going to be a very interesting day, and we'll have to wait and watch who the winners will be.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we were talking about how this is the first assembly election in Jammu Kashmir in 10 years. Tell us how the mood is right after the voting has been done. How are people feeling it?
Well, there has been a lot of excitement because there was a gap of 10 years of holding assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir. This is also the first assembly election taking place after the abrogation of Article 370. A lot of people, when we were going to the polling booths, were of the opinion that they're coming out to vote only and only because they are with the regional political parties. They're supporting them because they have promised them that they might be able to bring back the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. While on the other hand, we also saw huge participation in the Jammu region as well. There were record-breaking numbers there as well, and the mood was extremely festive because we've seen elections happening in the last 4 decades in Jammu and Kashmir. Most of the time it was poll boycott by the separatist leadership, but this time there was zero poll boycott. Everybody wanted to participate in these elections, and we did see that the numbers were record-breaking this assembly election.
Thanks, Idris, for getting us the latest. It's going to be a packed day for you as well. We will be keeping in touch with you hour to hour to get the latest from what's happening. That's Idris Lone getting us the latest from Srinagar.
All right, moving on. The United States said it wants to see the rights of the minority communities protected in Bangladesh.
Well, the statement comes as Hindus in the country are celebrating their largest festival of Durga Puja. US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller was responding to a question on the threat being posed to the Hindu community in Bangladesh has witnessed a rise in attacks against minorities, which includes Hindus, following the resignation of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and her escape to India in August.
According to a UN report, more than 600 people, including Hindus, were killed during violent protests in Bangladesh, culminating in the ouster of Hasina-led Awami League government. India has urged the interim Bangladesh government to ensure peaceful religious events for the Hindu community in the South Asian country.
India's Oil Minister Hardeep Singh Puri reassured that the country was prepared to handle any potential disruptions to oil supplies due to escalations in West Asia.
India, which imports around 85% of its crude oil needs, heavily depends on supplies from the region. However, Puri conveyed that despite concerns, the global market remained well stocked and that there were alternative suppliers available to mitigate any shortfalls.
With global oil prices inching closer to $80 per barrel, India is closely monitoring the situation. Puri implied that India had successfully navigated such crises in the past as well and was confident of maintaining stability in oil supplies through diversified sourcing and strategic reserves. He downplayed the possibility of a major oil shortage, pointing to existing surpluses in global markets and the forthcoming OPEC Plus production increases slated for December.
The minister's comments come at a time when financial markets have been jittery, with India's Nifty 50 and S&P BSE Sensex reflecting broader concerns. Both indices have corrected significantly as fears of a wider conflict in West Asia ripple through global markets.
Crude oil prices continue to fluctuate, largely driven by geopolitical uncertainties. This surge in prices has renewed concerns over energy costs and inflation around the world. But India, as one of the world's largest importers, claims it is working to ensure the country's energy security remains intact despite market volatility.
All right, now we turn our focus to the underperformance of Harvard's money managers in recent years compared to their peers.
Now, this is based on a special Bloomberg report. Harvard's investment travails coincide with other challenges to the university's vast wealth. Take a look at this next report for more.
Harvard Management Co., the Harvard University's in-house hedge fund, was built by Ron Daniel, a McKinsey & Company managing partner and Harvard's treasurer from 1989 to 2004. Daniel facilitated the remarkable expansion of the school's endowment as chairman of the fund's board. HMC initiated a strategy of long-term investments in unconventional assets for endowments, including private equity and hedge funds. But after his death, HMC's returns have dwindled in the last 2 decades. Harvard's endowment achieved an annualized return of 8.8%, placing it 7th among the 8 Ivy League institutions. Harvard has trailed behind 60% of university funds above $5 billion in assets. This is based on a report by the National Association of College and University Business Officers. Harvard's 10-year return was behind 80% of its peers. However, Harvard University has not crimped about paying its investing experts. According to tax documents filed by HMC during the last 20 years, the endowment paid out by $800 million to its senior investment managers and executives. That money is sufficient to pay the cost of undergraduate financial assistance for over 3 years. In June 2023, Harvard University's endowment was $50.7 billion, the largest in higher education. However, this title might be short-lived since the University of Texas system, fueled by oil wealth, could overtake it soon. The traditional financial blunder of changing tactics at inappropriate periods, chasing gains or buying high and selling cheap, is a root cause of the Harvard endowment's underwhelming performance. 7 individuals have been appointed to oversee the endowment at Harvard since 2005. 2 of these directors lasted for less than 2 years and 3 were interim positions. Prior to market declines, the school increased its exposure to risk, and just before markets rebounded, it reduced it. HMC invested in once popular stocks that later went down in value. Not long ago, Harvard invested heavily in private equity before it started to underperform. Mark Williams, a lecturer in finance at Boston University who's followed Harvard's endowment for years, said, "You just feel they're playing catch-up ball." Harvard endowment spokesperson Patrick McKiernan stated that HMC's educational and research missions are sustained by the institution's singular focus on producing risk-adjusted returns. McKiernan said long-term investments naturally take time to be fully realized, but early indications show that the endowment is well-positioned to meet both the current and future needs of Harvard University. The contrast with rival Yale University couldn't be starker. With an annualized return of 10.9% over the last 20 years, Yale was among the top 10% of big funds. Around the turn of this century, Yale had half as large as endowment as Harvard. Now, Harvard's endowment is barely 25% bigger. On a per capita basis, Yale and Princeton University have larger endowments than Harvard due to their smaller student bodies. The university now faces many other challenges, including taxes on investment income and donor hesitation from Palestinian protests and anti-Semitism on campus. That is in addition to HMC underperforming its peers. Business Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, let's now take a look at the developments from the world of technology. Russian state media company VGTRK, which runs the nation's major TV stations, faced a large-scale cyber attack on Monday. According to a Ukrainian government source, Ukrainian hackers were allegedly behind the hack. The website for VGTRK, including its 24 news channel, Rossiya 24, went offline, displaying a 503 service unavailable error. Additionally, VGTRK confirmed that the attack began on Sunday night and has affected both its online and internal services. Interestingly, the attack coincided with Russian President Vladimir Putin's 72nd birthday. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that efforts are underway to resolve the issue.
Not just Russia, but the US too suffered a cyber attack. US telecom giant Comcast has said that cyber criminals managed to steal the data of more than 230,000 customers during a ransomware attack on financial business and consumer solutions, Comcast's third-party debt collection services provider. The financial business and consumer solutions was cyber attacked this year in February. The hacked data includes customers' names, addresses, social security numbers, dates of birth, and Comcast account numbers and ID numbers as well. Comcast has said the stolen data belongs to those registered as customers around 2021, adding that the company stopped using FPCs for debt collection in 2020.
The Indian government has issued a warning regarding a new type of cyber fraud called the pension scam. In India, people aged 60 years and above are those who are eligible for pension and are required to submit a life certificate every year. With the annual deadline for submitting the certificate soon approaching, cyber groups are targeting vulnerable individuals through WhatsApp. Scammers are sending fake messages to pensioners claiming their pension will be stopped unless they update their certificate or submit personal details through a provided link. The Indian government has warned that clicking the link might lead to the user's phone getting hacked. The government also added that it does not use WhatsApp or any other social media platform to communicate regarding the pension certificate.